Welcome back. I'm very excited to introduce our next guest, who is going to talk about the future of how we can all feel better by getting better sleep and actually breathing the way nature intended. Kirk Huntsman is the CEO of Vivos Biotechnologies. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
I'm honored. Thank you for having me.
We're excited. This is a big topic.
It is a big topic.
Yeah.
We've been chatting just a little bit for our viewers. We've been chatting a little bit offline, and I am fascinated by what you're doing.
Tell us, back up a second. Tell us
Sure.
a little bit about how you got to do what you're doing.
Well, I've been in the dental business for almost 30 years. Back in 1988, I began brokering dental offices of all things, and got pretty good at it, and saw that the dentists really struggled with running their businesses. So in 1995, I actually founded a company that actually is called a Dental Services and Support Organization, and they actually operate the business side of dental practices. And we became a DSO organization and eventually had 165 dental offices, and then I sold that company off. And after that, I was looking for something else to do in dentistry. And a fellow approached me who was changing the occlusion, the bite of kids' teeth, actually the service that braces perform in children. He was doing that, but not using braces. So he was using these little plastic rubbery appliances that he was getting out of Australia. And it struck me that he didn't have to use braces to straighten teeth. And it was something I'd never heard of before. And I got curious about what it did. And eventually I met a doctor out of New York named Ben Moralia. And Ben has been treating kids with sleep and breathing disorders using these same little appliances and seeing miraculous results. Not only did these children have their teeth straightened out, but their symptoms of ADD, ADHD, bedwetting, their behavior at school, their allergies, all these things that moms deal with their kids and don't know what the root cause is, it all ties back to a sleep and breathing disorder. So I got very interested in that, and I thought, why is it that more people don't know about this? And I started doing my homework and due diligence. Eventually, we formed Vivos and came to, we have some designs of some appliances for children. They wear these little appliances at night, and it's just, in children, it's so easy to really affect their bite and affect their health, and we can resolve so many of these conditions for kids. The first thing that happened was that my youngest brother, who is a dentist, his son, my nephew, was 11 years old, just getting into scouting, trying to go on overnight campouts, but he was refusing to participate in a lot of the activities because he wet the bed. He was a chronic bedwetter. And so we used one of these little appliances, and within a week he stopped wetting the bed.
Wow.
And for 3 years now, he's now almost 15, so 3 or 4 years, he's not had a single episode of wetting the bed.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So that's what you're up to now. So that's Vivos. So let's talk about that, because you've got some appliances here.
Yeah.
And the kids one sounds
Yeah,
phenomenal.
I'll show you the children's appliance first. This is actually one of several that we have. I brought an example of one that we designed this with certain features. One of the problems that children have a lot of times is that their tongue doesn't know where to be in the mouth. And a lot of times it needs to be trained. Some children are actually born with, you know, the tissue that connects your tongue in the center, it's called the frenulum or the frenum. Well, that tissue is often too short, so a child's tongue is supposed to rest in the roof of the mouth. If you think about where your tongue is right now, it should be resting up in the mouth and forward. A child sometimes doesn't know to put their tongue up and have it forward.
You never think about that.
You don't think about it. And most of us, it just naturally happens. But for these children with short lingual frenums, what happens is that they have to be released. And an interesting side note, in the old days where they used to have midwives, the midwives would often grow their fingernail on their pinky finger extra long so that when the baby would be born, the midwife would take it, check the lingual frenum, and if the baby had a short lingual frenum, she would take her fingernail and just slice it right there. And then immediately give the child to the mother, so the mother could begin to breastfeed, and a very natural thing right off the bat. But there was the need for the baby to be able to suckle properly meant that the baby had to have that frenum released. Well, what happens is if your tongue is not up in your mouth, the upper palate never develops properly. And so if that happens, then you have conditions of crowded teeth and a narrow airway. And so it all connects together.
May I see this? I want to show the camera what this looks like.
Yeah.
So this is so interesting. So for our audience, this is super interesting for maybe grandchildren.
Sure.
But my dad, for example, he has sleep apnea really badly and has a CPAP machine.
Sure. So this right here is just a small little appliance for the children,
the
right?
kids' appliance.
And there's several different versions of this that go on. We designed this one with some interesting things. So one of the things you'll see on this, it has this little tab. So what the child would do is their tongue would just play with this little tab, and it strengthens the tongue to put it what they call the end spot. And then it has these little you can't really see it here very well, but this actually this little shelf here forces the tongue to lift and go up, and it trains the tongue to be up and forward in the mouth.
So interesting.
Yes.
Very comfortable gel, I can see.
And having been a brace wearer, did you wear braces?
I sure did.
Did you really?
And headgear and the whole bit.
nine.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because what they're finding now is we have a whole generation of people wearing CPAP machines, and a lot of it they think might be due. There's a whole controversy in dentistry as to whether the orthodontic extractions for orthodontic treatment, whether the extractions have actually contributed to the incidence of all the sleep apnea that we're seeing.
Well, because it did not allow the mouth to form
because when you take teeth out and you retrude all the rest of the dentition, what you effectively are doing is you're keeping that nice forward growth and development from happening. You know, an interesting thing is that 400 years ago, in the fossil record, there is all 32 teeth and no malocclusion. Nowhere. They can't find it. So what happens is that our ancestors probably didn't snore. And if you think about it, it makes sense from a survival standpoint, right?
Sure.
Because, you know, if you're out on the prairie or whatever and you're snoring and alerting, you know, all your animals and your enemies. Right.
Coyotes have got us.
Right.
Excuse me, coyotes were here.
So what they found was when the anthropologists went out and they looked at the fossil record and they looked at this issue of the dentition and how it was arranged in the mouth, they found that there was all 32 teeth. You know, we don't fit, our wisdom teeth have to be pulled.
Yeah.
We don't fit the way we used to. Our ancestors had room for everything.
So the whole theory here is that the mouth is not forming in the way that it historically did, so then the airways, the air passages are not able to function properly. And show us the adult plate, because I'm totally in for one of these.
Right, so here's what happens. So this is the technology. So after I was beginning Vivos, I ran across a doctor, Dr. Dave Singh, and he had developed what he called the DNA appliance technology. We've rebranded it as Vivos, the Vivos system, and it incorporates all of this now. But the technology that he had created actually works on children and adults. So we have the option now to use these appliances or these. Depending on the age of the child and the child's condition, we have several different treatment options. But this particular appliance here is actually for an adult, and the technology is actually built into this front part right here, where it actually will help the body to remodel the oral cavity. And so what happens is that let's get that.
I'll be Vanna White.
Okay, you're Vanna White. Okay, so there it is. So.
Well done.
So what happens is, there you go. So what happens here is that if the palate of the mouth, so this is the arch, if this is the dental arch right here, and these are my upper arch, if that is high and peaked, then the dental arch is narrow. And as the dental arches widen, you can see that the palate will drop. And when the palate drops, the airway in the upper nasal cavity will actually expand. And when the airway expands up there, then everything else will start to move forward, and you get a complete opening up of the airway from the nasal passages all the way back through behind the tongue, which is the it's called the retroglossal area of the throat, but it's actually the whole airway, which is a functional space in the body, will actually open up. So people with apnea, like you mentioned that was it your father who has?
So my dad has sleep apnea.
Okay.
But I also want to tell you, I think that my uncle Donnie Osmond, who you may or may not know, he's a singer, he had terrible sleep apnea.
Yes.
My understanding is that this appliance actually cured him. Is that correct?
He was actually treated with this appliance, and I actually met Donnie while he was under treatment, and he was a great patient. He had a great outcome.
Awesome.
Yeah, he had an appliance very, very similar to this one right here, and so what happens is that as this appliance does its magic in the mouth, it actually remodels and enhances the space available for the air to flow through the airway.
So it probably made him a better singer too.
I'm guessing.
It's probably you were responsible for Donnie's singing career.
Well, we may have extended it by a few years. Who knows, right? But no, I'm actually a patient. I actually have an appliance, and what I have noticed I've been in treatment about 6 months. I'm moderate sleep apnea, and so what I've noticed is I can actually feel that I have more room in my mouth for my tongue, and I can feel that it's wider. It's
and you
already
can feel the breathing is
yes.
and all of the illnesses that stem from poor breathing or not proper sleep or not giving the body the opportunity to repair. I mean,
well, so that's one of the things. Yeah, when we talk about sleep apnea, we're really addressing. There's cardiovascular disease, dementia, Alzheimer's, ADD, ADHD in adults and children. We mentioned the bedwetting. We mentioned chronic allergies. Our airway is central to us being able to live healthy lives.
And where can our viewers get more information? On your website?
So we have a website, vivoslife.com, and they can get information there. We have about 700 providers around the country, and then we're going to be opening up Vivos centers in various markets, mainly the large metropolitan areas, so that we can control the overall patient experience, make sure that everybody gets the right kind of treatment with the right kind of qualified doctor. But we have certified providers around the country already.
Okay, so let's say my dad, for example,
Yes.
I want him to get off of his CPAP machine. It's
Yes.
driving everybody crazy, and especially him.
Right.
So so he calls vivoslife.com.
Right. He can go there.
Goes to them.
Go to the
goes
website.
to the website,
Right.
and then there's a number there that he can
Yes.
call, and then he can find the certified provider.
in
Right,
this area.
Okay.
right. And then he can go in, and it depends on how long ago he had his sleep test or what his current records show, but there'll be a protocol around what kind of appliance. It comes in various configurations depending on how severe and what the needs are for each individual patient.
Well, we
Excellent.
want to make sure our viewers can find us, so find you.
Yes.
So we can look at vivoslife.com, and we'll have the information on our website as well. So thank you so much for being with
my
us.
pleasure.
There's just a much bigger conversation to be had.
Yes.
We'll have to do it.
We'll do it again. We'll have to have you
Great.
back.
I'd love to do that.
I want to know how your device can cure my naughty children. That's what I really want to know.
That's for the next part.
That's the next show.
That's the next
show. And we'll be right back.